Marky's podcast. We are really excited today to bring you another Hall Star interview. We are talking with actor Mark Deklin today. And Mark, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Rachel. It's good to be here. How are you?
Yeah. So I was looking at your IMDb and your IMDb bio, and we always kind of joke on the podcast that Hallmark loves men with many jobs. You know, that's the contrast to the bad man of business, is the person who's like good at everything and is always there for the town, whatever is needed. And I think that you could classify as a real life man with many jobs.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that could be seen as either a positive. I could call myself a Renaissance man, or I could just say that I spent a long time trying to figure out, what the heck I wanted to do with my life. Yeah. And it's funny. Somebody just tweeted the other day, let's have a moment of silence for all the lawyers in business suits who are about to lose their fiance to a guy in flannel. Which I had to like that one. Yeah, I do a lot of things. I've done a lot of things. I spent a long time trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Right out of college, I went to work for Greenpeace. I worked construction jobs.
Yeah, you worked as a jazz pianist in Vienna. That has to have a story behind it.
I did. It does, and it wasn't. I didn't work for very long. It was literally. My dad and my uncle and I had gone to Dresden, and that's a whole other long story. We were doing some family research and visiting some distant cousins, and my buddy was working for BMW in Munich. This is a buddy of mine from college, and so I went down to Munich to see him. And then I took the train to Vienna, and I just wanted to stay. And I was running out of money. Like I had, my dad and my uncle had gone back. I wasn't traveling the whole time with them. I was just doing my thing, spending money that I had earned on construction jobs. And I'd budgeted myself just right. And I had 1 week's worth of money left. And I took the train to Vienna, and I wanted to just see a bunch of opera and see, like where Mozart was born and good cultural stuff. And it's a fantastic city. I'm having a great time. And I'd sort of planned it. I had two friends from California who were backpacking through Europe at the same time. So we planned to meet up in Vienna. And so it was our last night there. I literally had just enough money to get to the airport the next day. And we went out and we found this really great bar. And there was a white Steinway baby grand piano in the back. And this really cool woman was playing. And my friends knew that I played, so they asked her, hey, would it be okay if my friend got up and played a song or two? And she said, yeah, okay. And I did, and I'm competent. And she said, oh, you're pretty good. Could you help me out? I want to go visit my family in Stuttgart, but I don't want to lose my job here. Could you be a placeholder for me until I get back? So I said, yeah, sure, that'd be great. So I ended up staying a while longer, and it was a great adventure. And I was bar back when I wasn't piano, and my German got much better than it had been. It was a great fun adventure. And then eventually I went back home, and then I started grad school. Then a few months later, I ended up going to grad school in Indiana for English Lit. I was not going to be an actor. That was not the plan at all.
You're like living out a Billy Joel song in real life. I mean, it's great.
Yeah. They were putting bread in my jar and saying, man, what are you doing here? For sure. Yeah,
that's right. Well, that and Vienna. Yes, that's Vienna.
Vienna. Well, Vienna did wait
Vienna
for me.
Waits
You're right.
For you. Very good. That's
a great tune.
Yeah. So you said on your IMDb that you had worked at Cape Cod, you had been a rare book dealer, that you have construction workers, you said, an English teacher. That is really cool.
Thank you. I mean, it's one of those things. I'm sure I caused a lot of stress for my parents, in my 20s, as they were watching me. They were really supportive, don't get me wrong, but I'm sure there were times when they were like, oh my God, what is this kid doing with his life? Because I just didn't know. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Yeah. And a lot, honestly, a lot of the things that, a lot of the skills or talents that I had, I wasn't sure how to monetize that. Like I was a good teacher. I was, there were just certain things I was pretty good at, but I just couldn't figure out how do you make a career out of that. Um, and so, like I said, I was on the path. I mean, the railroad job in Cape Cod that was just a random. My dad was a builder, so I had some skill with tools. I don't want to overplay that, but some. Um, and uh, and they were restoring these old railroad cars from the 1940s, silver street cars. It was really cool. It was this really neat little railroad that ran from Hyannis on Cape Cod up to Boston and back, and they would do like mystery dinner theater and things like that on the train. And so we were hired to just do welding and restoring, and it was a fun time. And then my buddy and I, our boss liked us. So when the job was done, he said, "You guys want to stay on, and I'll make you a conductor and a fireman." So we would just ride the train. It was fun. But yeah, eventually the respectable path that I chose was I was going to get my PhD in English Lit, and so I started that. I finished the master's work, and I was still the whole time I was doing plays on the side just for fun. And just one day I had a light bulb. I was in rehearsals for a play. It just felt right. And that night I went back to my apartment and I sat down to do some work on my dissertation. And I just sat there staring at the keyboard and not typing anything for about half an hour. And then it just really hit me that, I really do want to see if I can make a go of it with acting. And maybe it's foolish. I mean, I was always very realistic. I always knew that acting is a tenuous job at best, but I thought I just want to see, and maybe I'll fail. And if so, then I'll know. So I called the head of my department and I said, "Steve, I'm dropping out." And he was beautiful about it. He was like, I had a feeling. I saw you in a play months ago. And another professor and they'd come to see me in a Shaw play. And he said, when we left, we looked at each other and we said, "We're going to lose him." So he said, "So how can I help?" Which was so beautiful. So I said, "I don't know. I don't have a place. Where are you going to go?" I said, "I don't know. New York, LA, I really don't know." And so he made me an offer. He said, "Why don't you stay, finish out the year? I'll put you on faculty because you're already you're a very good English teacher. Just stay on, keep teaching English, and you can take, acting classes here at the university. And when you're ready, then you'll make your move," which was terrific. So I did that, and then moved to Seattle, which was pretty happening at that point. It was back in the time of grunge and all those great bands like Nirvana and Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. They were all sort of local bands, and Starbucks was a local coffee shop. I think they were at that point they weren't Starbucks, the behemoth, and so it was an exciting time to be there. And then I ended up getting my MFA from the University of Washington in acting, my MFA in acting, and then certified with the Society of American Fight Directors, sort of by chance. Just a teacher of mine happened to be involved with them. He said, "You should certify for this. It'll look good on your resume." So I did, and then that ended up taking me down another whole career path. And then eventually I got a really nice review. I was working in Seattle. I got a really nice review, and they very sweetly referred to me as a local favorite. Oh. But I didn't like that. I flipped it out. I was like, I'm too young to be a local favorite. That feels too like I feel like a big fish in a small pond. I need to go to a big pond. So I moved to New York, and and I was in New York for a while, and then eventually ended up in LA. And
yeah. So you ended up being on Broadway for a bunch of years, and I'm a huge theater nerd,
oh, good,
whatever you want to call it. Love it so much. And as much as because I'm a film critic for my job, but as much as I love film, I love theater even more. I absolutely love.
I hear you.
There's something about live theater I think is just incredible. And so I was curious to know. I'm always curious about actors, stage actors, and how you keep motivated when you're doing the same part over and over and over and over again. Does it get hard?
It does. I mean, I have a couple versions of an answer to that. Because one, part of the fun of it is that you craft this performance, right? And I hate to think of it even as a performance. You craft the way that you are going to contribute to the telling of this story, right? And I'm, more than anything else in life, I'm a storyteller. And so to me, it's always exciting, the idea of how can I communicate this story to this audience, because it's not the same audience. And yes, you're not seeing faces, and you're not necessarily hearing voices, but you're feeling energy. And that's real. That's why, like, that's what you were just talking about. That's why theater is exciting, because you're breathing the same air, and you're there's an exchange of energy. And the joke that you tried to land last night won't necessarily land tonight, even though they laughed last night. Every audience is different. So you have to stay in the truth of that moment under these imaginary circumstances. So part of the fun and the challenge is, how do I keep this fresh? How do I every night make this a new telling of this story?
Yeah.
And that's, again, that's what I love about it. But I do also believe after a while, inevitably, it gets stale. I think there's a shelf life, not necessarily for production, but for the actors in a production. I think if you're doing a play for, if you're doing a play for a couple years, I think inevitably at some point it's going to become your cubicle, and it's going to lose a bit of that excitement. So one of the things I loved, I mean, this is before I had a family and needed steady employment. One of the things I loved about being a stage actor, an itinerant gypsy, was exactly that. I was constantly changing it up. I would go to a play for 3-4 months, then be unemployed, then go to another play, and it was really exciting to reinvent that every time, and it always felt fresh. And and obviously film and TV is different. There's a different satisfaction there. Like, there's something very satisfying about shooting a movie, having it in the can, and now it's there. You can watch it, and it's as fresh as it was when you shot it, because it was captured, but it's not live. So it's interesting. I love both. I love both medium. Very much.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast.
Cozy up with A Very Bavarian Christmas, a delightful Christmas novel by Katie M. Reed.
Holly Noel Brigham is trapped back in her hometown, personalizing ornaments at the mile-long Christmas store, and she doesn't even like Christmas.
As Holly works through fractured relationships and embarrassing misunderstandings, she stumbles upon love in the Bavarian-themed town from which she tried to distance herself.
Best-selling author Crystal Payne says this about A Very Bavarian Christmas. If you're looking for a holiday-themed read that will warm your heart, but also make you think, this is the perfect pick. The storyline and characters draw you in from the get-go, and you'll find yourself relating to their struggles and cheering for their victories.
Available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook.
Pick up A Very Bavarian Christmas for yourself and the Hallmark fans on your list at averybavarianchristmas.com.
That's averybavarianchristmas.com.
Yeah. So you were in The Lion King on Broadway, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, what is that like with those incredible puppets, the incredible costumes? I mean, must be just an amazing experience.
It was one of the coolest experiences of my life on many levels. One, I'd been working more and more, even though I was a New York based actor. I've been working more in California and going back and forth a lot. And I'd sort of gotten to the point where I was really starting to really enjoy and get a handle on film. And I thought, I need to commit to LA. And so I'd gone out and I'd let my apartment go in New York, and I'd gotten this little apartment in Koreatown in LA. And I got the offer to do The Lion King on Broadway. And I said, oh God, I mean, this is something, when I lived in New York, this is something I would have jumped at. But now, what? I've made a commitment. I chose this path, so I'm going to stick with this. And I turned it down. Not that was easy to do, but I just sort of felt like I need to stick with the path that I just chose for myself. And a couple days later, September 11th happened. And
wow.
I stood there watching that happen, and I got profoundly homesick. And I really, not that I thought I could do anything, but I just felt like I needed to be back in New York. So I called my agent and said, can we call back and see if the job's still available? And it was. And so so I came back, and that was a very exciting, I mean, obviously a somber time to be in New York, but also New York was filled with life. And I'm sure a sort of gratitude for being alive. You could feel it in the air. So it was an exciting time to be back in New York. Yeah, I started doing The Lion King. Um, the other thing was I'm not a musical theater actor. I'm a Shakespeare guy who also like I'm classically trained as an actor, and I was also in rock bands growing up. I'm like a rock singer. I don't have a Broadway voice. I have more of like an Eddie Vedder kind of voice. And so I would look around and I would think, how the hell did I even get here? Like, what am I doing here? But for Scar, it was the perfect match. They wanted that classical sensibility, a Shakespearean sensibility, and and Scar doesn't really have to sing per se. He can just sort of act on pitch. So it was a good fit. And it was also another element of it was being one of the few white folks in a show that was largely people of color, not only African Americans but actual Africans, people who were from South Africa who were part of the original company. And there was a real sense, a wonderful sense of community, and a lot of that community was centered around the African American community. And coming in, I guess I could have easily felt like an outsider, but I never did. I was welcomed in immediately, and it was a really profound, beautiful experience for me to be, an honorary member of a community that I'm not really a member of, but to feel like I was part of it. And yeah, it changed my life in a lot of ways, just in subtle, beautiful ways. And I've always cherished that experience. It was
So cool.
really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
when you
then,
think about it,
the other,
when you
go
think
ahead.
about it, be prepared is a very theatrical song,
Yeah,
and also, yeah, you could use that sort of more modern sound in doing that song pretty easily. That makes sense.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't have to sound like, oh, I could just sort of growl my way
Yeah.
through it and it worked. Yeah.
Well, if we ever get our Hallmark musical, our Hallmark musical dream, they will have to have you on board.
That would be fun. That would be really fun.
I can't believe they haven't done it yet, because you think how successful these live musicals are that like
Yeah.
NBC does and Fox and whatever, and
Yeah.
and they do a great job, and like how big a part music is of Christmas, and
Yeah.
it just makes sense. There's so many Hall stars that are incredible singers, so you could do a really fun. I think it would have huge ratings.
Oh, I think I agree. I think it would be a huge event, and I think they should consider it.
Yeah, it would be so fun. And
Yeah.
so when you were in with Cyrano, did you do the fight choreography for that, or did you act in that as well?
So I was offered the role of Valmont. I'm not Valver. Sorry, getting confused with Dangerous Liaisons, um, and to be the fight choreographer. And I had just started. I was working on the show Shark out in LA, and so I couldn't take the role, and I was bummed out because I wanted to perform in it, but I said, look, but I'd still be delighted to do the fights. And so I did. And it was great. I mean, it was so exciting. I had this sort of moment where I was like, oh my, I'm gonna choreograph a fight for Kevin Kline for the Pirate King. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Amazing. Yeah.
So yeah, that was really fun. And I spent a long time in the studio building what I consider one of the best fights I've done. That was really fun challenge. And I had an amazing fight captain, a guy named Carmen Lachivita, who is just wonderful. And the fight captain is so essential to a fight choreographer. And the fight captain is basically the guy who keeps the fight in order when you're not there. And it's actually a job I had done for years before I became a fight director. Yeah, anyway, so it was a great experience. Jennifer Garner was Roxanne, and she's just, it's funny, my wife and I were just talking about her this morning. It's funny this comes up because my wife said, oh, I just, she showed me something funny, and I said, oh, where'd you say? She said, oh, I was on Jennifer Garner's Instagram. I said, oh, she was so nice. I really liked working with her. Like, she's what a good-hearted person she is. So yeah, anyway, that was a great experience. That was really fun.
That's awesome. Are you gonna see the new Cyrano movie coming out?
Of course.
Yeah, I'm so excited for it. I think it looks
Yeah.
great. I actually get to see it at a screening on Thursday, and I'm really looking forward to it. I hope it's
Oh, fun,
great.
fun.
Yeah, it looks really, really good. Peter Dinklage
Yeah.
and director
He's
Joe
so
Wright.
good.
Yeah, amazing. So very cool. Well, so the first time that I saw you, at least on it was a movie aired on Hallmark, was The Wish List, was actually the first time that I saw you. And it's kind of a funny role because you're literally like the perfect man in the movie.
On paper.
But you lose out to
Right.
to
To
barista
David
Fred.
Sutcliffe. Yeah.
You just couldn't make the coffee, right?
I couldn't make the. Well, it's funny. When I first went to LA, my agent, I remember I had a meeting with him. He was this very old school agent who I'm no longer with, but back then it was they'd been my agency in New York, and I was with him. And so we had a meeting, and he was looking at me like this, and he's like, I'm trying to figure out, are you the guy who gets the girl from George Clooney, or does George Clooney get the girl from you? And I remember thinking, oh my, LA is so weird. Like, why can't I be both? I'm an actor. I can be the guy. Sometimes I can be the guy who gets the girl. Sometimes I can be the guy who loses the girl. I can stretch. And but LA is funny like that. There are boxes. And
Sure.
So yeah, I went through a phase in LA where I was not the guy. I was like the red herring.
Guy.
I did all the procedural, all the police dramas, right? And I was always the guy you think committed the murder, because he's such an entitled jerk, and I was in that. That was my wheelhouse. I was like the guy you hate, and you assume the worst about him. And so yeah, it made sense for me in a Hallmark movie to be the guy who loses the girl, who thinks he's all together, except except where it counts.
He really was the perfect man, except for when they were planning the wedding. Then you were a jerk. You were no good.
Yeah. And we had to
Yeah.
play that up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. But Fred, he was also a jerk. That's my problem with that movie, is that
Yeah. I hear you.
He's so rude to her. And I mean,
it's a funny.
Go
Go
ahead.
No, all I was gonna say was there's a funny balancing act sometimes with the Hallmark movies. Like sometimes you're just a great guy. The character's just a great guy. But sometimes you're supposed to have the tension with, the leading lady and the leading man are supposed to have this, I'm not sure I like you at the beginning. And that's a fine balancing act you have to strike, because we have to understand that there's, friction between the two, but you can't just be a jerk. Like, you still have to be somewhat charming, somewhat likable, or else the movie kind of doesn't work. Yeah.
I was like, let the woman make her coffee order just the way she wants it.
Yeah.
Leave her alone.
Don't be a snob.
Yeah. Very good. So what's it like being on a show like Designated Survivor or Grace and Frankie? You had longer runs on those. What's that like?
It's interesting. Series television is always an interesting animal, because when you come in to do a movie or a play, what the story is. Like, you read the script, you know where it's going to go, where it's going to end up. But with TV, you don't. It's open-ended, and it can go anywhere. And so it's interesting, because there are choices you might make earlier in your run that seem to make sense in the moment, and then you look back, as your character takes a left turn, you think, oh, I wish I'd known that was coming, because I could have set that up better somehow. Designated Survivor was interesting. When they brought me in, I was this senator. I was from Montana, but they wanted me to really play up my apparently I had Southern roots. My family had come from the South, and my character liked to really play up the good old boy thing, in order to sort of bond with like-minded folks. And so, and they really had me like lean into that. They were like, yeah, really play up the good old boy thing. But then that whole backstory, my character was supposed to be an author, this best-selling author, and all that stuff sort of it went away, and my character kind of went in a different direction. And suddenly this sort of, accent that I had kind of didn't make sense anymore. And that was from Montana, and I sounded like I was from Texas. And they were just sort of like, oh, well, just we were telling you to lean into it. Now we're asking you to lean away from it. And so if you watch subsequent episodes, my accent gets lighter and lighter and lighter. But that happens all the time in series TV. You're figuring out as you go. With Grace and Frankie, my character at first, he was extremely bohemian, almost hippie-ish, almost like dirty hippie. And that was cool. I was down with that. And I like the whole folk musician thing was really going to be played up, but they ended up taking it in a much more sort of bright and colorful direction, which was also fun. My character was sort of this Epicurean, right? He couldn't put him in any kind of box. He was just somebody who was interested in trying everything. And so that was very fun to play. It was very sort of freeing, because in a way you can do no wrong. When it's a character who's open to anything, there are no wrong choices as an actor. So that was really fun. And the cast was, when you're working with good people, it makes such a difference. Sam Waterston and Martin Sheen and Lily Tomlin. I mean, just
amazing.
Just like legends, right? Amazing actors I admire, but also just really nice, good-hearted people who it was enjoyable to go to work and see at work. So it's very fortunate when you get a situation like that.
Cool. Yeah, I think that would be interesting, and to see your character kind of grow and evolve and over time. I think that would be cool. So the first time that a lot of people listening saw you on Hallmark Channel would have been the Switch for Christmas.
Yeah.
2 Candace Cameron Brays. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that must have been pretty fun to be a part of.
It was terrific, and it was really unexpected. In fact, to this day, I'm not sure where that came from, because I had done the wish list, and then I had actually turned down a couple Hallmark movies. There was a period where I thought like, oh, that's not my brand. I'm much darker and edgier than that. I'm too cool for Hallmark. And then I changed my mind. I was like, no, I'd actually love to do one, and I wasn't getting any offers, and it's fine. Doing other stuff, and I think it was the same year, if I'm right. It was the same year that I was doing Designated Survivor, and also I was doing this really dark arc on what show was that? Okay, I don't want to waste time. I can't think of it now. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, and out of the blue, I got this offer to do this movie with the Queen of Christmas, Candace Cameron Bure, and I remember I was like, oh, okay. Did I earn this? Like, where did this even come from? So I came right out of the gate with, one of the biggest hitters. And as you say, two times Candace. And Ian Bailey played the other love interest to the twin sister. And he's a great guy. And it was wonderful. We shot that in Salt Lake City, which is that where you are?
Yeah, that's where I am.
Okay. Yeah. I love Salt Lake. That's where we just shot, this year's Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Which I know you're going to get to shortly. I love shooting in Salt Lake. It's a great place. I love Park City. I love Zion and Arches, and I love going out to the Salt Flats. It's really cool. And Candace was so. I have so much respect for her as a professional. She handles her business really smartly. She is a together businesswoman, and really, really very present, a scene partner. Just really, we had a really nice time, and we ended up getting in some really nice philosophical discussions about random things. And Ian is a similarly eclectic, erudite kind of guy, and just had a really fun time. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Oh, this was interesting. I had a wonderful moment. I had this driver in Salt Lake who was this guy Scott, and he was a very spiritual dude. And we would have these deep conversations driving to location. And he gave me this great perspective at one point. We were driving and he said, "So what are your goals for your career right now?" And I said, "It's funny, Scott. I don't, right at the moment, my career is not my priority. Like, my kids are young. And right now, I just want to be the best dad I can be. I guess for my career, I want to be employed enough to support my family, but I want to be unemployed enough to enjoy my family." And he thought about that for a second. He said, "So in other words, you're wildly successful." And I was like, "Oh, wow. I mean, what a great perspective on that." Because I hadn't thought of it that way. You're right. Like, I was just thinking like, yeah, I'm just kind of like working when I can and, getting by. And suddenly I was like, you're right. I have exactly what I've wished for right now at this point in my life. It may not be what I want in 5 years, but at this moment in my life, I am getting exactly what I would like to have. And thank you for that reminder of how grateful I should be.
That is that is a very good thought, because I had similar realization myself, because I want to be a published film critic. I want to have an outlet that I cover regularly, the films.
Mm-hmm.
That's my dream. But the other day, I was kind of feeling sorry for myself, and I wasn't able to get the pitches that I wanted sold. And I have another job where I am a social media blogger, basically,
Mm-hmm.
an influencer
Mm-hmm.
for a brand. And I was thinking, why won't somebody pay me for my writing?
Right.
That's what I was feeling. And then I realized myself, people do pay me for my writing. It's just not what I want, my number one, what I want to be writing, but it's fun, like, it's great. And I don't know, it just made me realize that I'm so fortunate to have the flexibility and the situation that I have, and to be able to, live my dreams. And just, if they're not packaged in the perfect way that I would love it to be, and hopefully maybe someday will be, you do have to take a second and be grateful for the moments.
I agree. And isn't that funny? Because we get attached to what the form will be, right? Like, what it will look like. Like you're saying, like, I want to be, this kind of writer, published in this way.
Yeah.
And sometimes it makes you blind to the fact that you've gotten what you want. You are, as you say, you are a published writer, mm-hmm. right? Or, there is, I remember, I'm not religious, but I remember going to church, the story that my pastor told that always stuck with me. And he said, a very religious man, there's a flood, and his friends say, "Come on, we got to get up. We have to evacuate." He says, No, God will take care of me. And then the waters get higher. Now he's on the second floor. A Jeep comes by and they say, "Jump in, we'll rescue you." No, God will save me. Flood waters get higher. Now a guy in a rowboat comes by, says, "Climb in, I'll get you out of here." And he says, No, God will save me. Eventually he's on the roof, and a helicopter comes by and jump, grab the ladder. No, God will provide. Sends them away. Well, he drowns. And he gets to heaven and he's mad at God. He's like, "Why did you abandon me? I was a devout religious man." And God says, "What are you talking about? I sent you a Jeep, a rowboat, a helicopter. You turned them all away." And I've always that story always stuck with me.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
Well, you got to be in the Evergreen series, which must have been a super fun time.
It was a super fun time in a number of ways. Jo Wagner is really fun to work with. Like, she's just a very funny person in life. And so we had a great time with our banter. And there were other people in the cast. That's when I met Ashley Williams, who is now, again, we'll come back to this, but that's my connection to the current movie. As is Sean McNamara. He was my director in Evergreen, and now he's the director of the new movie. Holly Robinson Pete was in the movie. Barbara Niven, who am I leaving out? I always feel bad. I always try to recall everybody,
we could
and
be
I
going
don't
for
get
days with
yeah,
Evergreen movies.
exactly.
There's so many.
But it was really Ricky Bernard, Andrew Francis. Anyway, I'm not going to try to pull out the list, but it was just a great group of people.
Yeah.
And we had fun. We were up in Vancouver, and I have tons of friends in Vancouver, and we just had a wonderful time. And so I was really happy to work with both Ashley and Sean again on this movie that's coming up.
Yeah, and they had one of the most like epic near kisses in that Evergreen movie. I was just like, what? Like, you were so close.
Yeah, and right, and the comedy of like, we're about to kiss and it's really hot and heavy. Oh, we just got interrupted, and that's a funny moment to play because of course there's comedy in it, but you don't want to make it too like. But yeah, that was fun. We had a lot of fun with that. And by the way, for the record, I know everybody loves the red pickup truck, and it is cool, but it's one of the worst vehicles I've ever driven in my life. It was such a headache. Awful. The clutch was terrible, and it wasn't automatic. Of course, it had to be. And I don't mind driving a stick, but it was like a bad clutch, and it wouldn't shift properly, and it was not fun. No power steering. I was like, I know it looks cool, but God, I hate it.
Yeah, Paul Green told us the same thing.
It's a Christmas ornament.
Yeah.
What's that?
Paul Green told us the same thing, that it was terrible.
Yeah. It's not fun.
Well, let's talk about, I know you have some other films. Well, let's move up to the new movie. So you're in are you in Kimberly's side of the story or in Ashley's side? You're in Kimberly's. That's
so
what
it's
I thought.
two sides. So there are two. Have you seen them screeners yet?
I have not.
Okay. So I don't want to deal in any spoilers, but the two movies are interconnected.
Right.
And they're not sequential. They happen simultaneously. And they sort of Ashley and Kim and Neil Dodson, who is Ashley's husband, and Sean McNamara, they all and the writing, the other writers, they really mapped it out so it all matches up. So the timeline works. When thing A is happening in this movie, it's thing B that matches is simultaneously happening in this movie. And the two sisters go back and forth between the two movies quite a bit. And if it were possible to watch them side by side, the timing would all work out. So, if Kim says, I'm driving to the other town, I'll be back tomorrow. The next time you see her to be in the other movie as she pulls in, right? It's pretty cool and not an easy thing to pull off. And a lot of the cast, not a lot, a handful of the cast does the back and forth thing. I did not. I'm only in the hometown holiday because I represent the hometown. Yeah, I'm the guy who moved back to Hazelwood when my wife died, and I brought my young daughter with me, and I'm restoring historical buildings, and so I'm very much attached to that location. So, whereas Keith Robinson, who's Ashley's love interest in the other movie, he does make a brief appearance or a couple brief appearances in our movie. Not anything big, and we didn't get to have any big scenes together or anything, but he shows up from time to time. And
you're restoring a theater in this one or something like that?
Yeah. So I am. I've come back, and I'm the head of the Historical Preservation Society, and Kim's family owns this theater. Her uncle Dave, who's played by Kevin Nealon, owned the theater, and it's a tradition in the town. Everybody had their first date at this theater. They always showed Christmas movies, but economic things are real, and the theater has to be sold. It's not making money. And Uncle Dave has passed away, and that's not a spoiler. We learned that early on. And so her family basically hires me to come in, and my idea is let's restore the theater. Let's fix everything up as best we can so that the new buyers won't change much. If everything's true to the old theater but in good shape, then they won't do some fancy modern renovation, and then we'll at least feel good about the fact that we're selling the theater. So that's what I'm doing. Now Kim has come home. She's going to help her parents out, and So she and I are working together on this restoration, and we went to high school together. We both grew up in this town. We both ended up leaving this town, but we were debate team rivals, and we kind of didn't like one another. I mean, secretly, I had a crush on her, but I never said anything. But we were always butting heads, and in fact, there's a fun but creepy thing that will come into the movie. It's creepy to me. They wanted a photo of us on the debate team together. So, Photoshop is a crazy thing, right? So I gave them this picture of me from like 8th grade, I think. And Kim had a similar younger photo. And they found a photo of 2 kids in suits, like they're on a debate team. And they Photoshopped our faces. And they did a good job. The props department did a really good job morphing us into these kids. So it's like, and they said, and it shows up in the movie, and it actually looks good, but it's like, it's creepy, right? Like when they said to you, I was like, oh, look, there's young me with, but it works. The magic of movies.
That is really cool. Well, I mean, I'm really looking forward to this. It's just fun. They're trying something new, doing something different. And I think it's gonna be great. I mean, they have the Williams sisters together. The first time acting together is super fun.
And they're both so great. Again, I'd worked with Ashley before. I didn't know Kim. And I mean, I knew who she was from Father of the Bride and from According to Jane. But and I knew that she was Brad Paisley's wife. Like I knew who she was, but we'd never met before. God, she's just terrific. She's such a down to earth, cool. Like I remember thinking, like, we're like, this is someone I would be friends with in real life, not just like someone who I like and get along with, but truly someone that I would be friends with. Just such a first rate, and Ashley too. They're such first rate human beings, and their relationship in real life is just beautiful. I mean, they really are best friends, and it's nice, like I look at my own kids. I have a son and a daughter, and I see them together. I see how much they love each other. And of course you hope, my wife and I, we watch them. We hope that they'll stay close and that they'll be best friends growing up. And so to see 2 adults who are clearly each other's person. And it's really, and I think it really translates. I mean, this is their movie. That's like, I'm in it. I'm a co-star in the movie. I'm like a second lead, but it's their movie. We're all just there enjoying the ride. And I don't mean that in some gross way, like it's all about them. That's, to me, that's the magic of these movies, is watching the chemistry of the 2 of them. And then like I said, we're all just along for this great ride and having fun.
That sounds great. I'm very much looking forward to it.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Well, we like to end our interviews with some fun, silly Christmas questions. So
Okay.
Here we go. What is your favorite holiday drink?
Probably eggnog.
Very good. What is your favorite holiday cookie or treat?
Oh, I'm a sucker for like those Christmas tree shaped, like sugar cookies with that icing. Yeah, I mean, there are other things. I have a sweet tooth, so I could name many things. But Christmas cookies, yes.
Very good. Okay. What is your favorite Christmas song or carol?
Sort of an obscure one, but I think Panis Angelicus is one of my favorites.
Oh.
Panis Angelicus. It was one of my mom's favorites, and so I think it just has a sentimental, in addition to being a beautiful song, it's very sentimental. But but I love all the Christmas carols from the World War II, from the 40s era.
I'll Be Home for Christmas.
Obviously Bing Crosby, Nat King Cole, all those are my favorites. I'm not as much a fan of the more recent Christmas carols.
Sure. All right. What is your favorite classic Christmas movie?
It's such a cliche, but there's a reason it's a cliche. It's A Wonderful Life. Yeah. It's a fantastic. Frank Capra knew how to make a movie. There's just no way around that. All of his movies are great. It Happened One Night. You watch Clark Gable and It Happened One Night, and you're like, oh, that's where they got Bugs Bunny from. Classic stuff. It definitely It's a Wonderful Life. It's a nearly perfect movie.
I agree. It's great. Okay, who do you prefer, Scrooge or the Grinch?
Oh, that's a good one. That's actually a tough one, because from a literary standpoint, I've always been a Dickens fan. But I started this tradition of when my daughter was in preschool, I would go and I would read How the Grinch Stole Christmas to her classmates, and it became something I would do every year. So I think I'm going to go with the Grinch.
All right, very good. Okay, which do you prefer, clear lights or colored?
Oh, again, interesting. I think from an aesthetic viewpoint, I prefer colored. I like the cleanness of it. It feels like ice and snow, and I like that. But when I was a kid growing up, we had brightly colored lights, so that's nostalgic for me. So, but we go clear. We basically go clear. Yeah.
Okay.
At our
home. Would you rather be in a snowball fight or build a snowman?
Snowball fight.
Okay, good. Would you consider yourself a good gift wrapper or not?
Yeah, I actually, not that I'm so creative in my gift wrapping, but I'm very precise. So I'm good at like getting the seams just right. So yeah, in that regard, yes, I'm a good gift wrapper.
Good. Do you have an ugly Christmas sweater?
I don't, and I know that's blasphemy for Hallmark. The sweater I had with Candace in Switch for Christmas was pretty ugly.
Yeah, it was a good one.
But I don't know. It was a good one.
Yeah.
But I don't own it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's you answered all of the questions.
All right.
Good. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. This was a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to the movie, and I hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas.
You too, Rachel. It was really nice talking to you. Take care.
Do you have social media that you want to share before we go?
Sure. I don't have Facebook, but I have Twitter and Instagram, and it's just at Mark Deklin.
Perfect. We'll have that in the description, and hopefully we get to talk to you again sometime. And
that'd be great.
We'll look forward to the new movie.
Awesome. Thanks
so much. We'd like to thank Mark for coming on the podcast. This was so much fun to get to talk with him. He's such an interesting person, and I hope you enjoyed it, listening to our discussion as much as I enjoyed talking to him. And so please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We appreciate that so much. You can follow me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. I'd really appreciate your support. And please check out the Patreon. I need your help in order to keep the podcast going. So please take a look. And then we also have the merch store, which is so much fun and has so many fun Christmas designs. So please take a look at that. And thank you so much to Mark again. And Merry Christmas, everybody. Bye.